Alright CertHeads, now this is going to be an interesting video. In next couple of videos, we talk about questions and answers to solidify our understanding on the topics which we have learned over all the past videos. You have done the hard work. You have revised, practiced, and now it's game time. I have divided this video into two parts. Each part covers 25 questions. These questions will help you give a feel as to how the exam tests your knowledge and help you understand the exam pattern. But before that, I would like to introduce you to another exciting piece of tech which I use and I would highly recommend you to use as well. Now, you might have used VPN in your environments at some point of time. You see, the right network setup makes studying, lab work and tenant switching way smoother. Now, between Microsoft Learn, SAP Notes, Azure Portal, Entra ID, GitHub Labs and vendor documentation, you often hit the same blockers like SSO loops, captchas or public Wi-Fi, region-locked pages or sessions that drop mid-lab when your IP changes. You wish you had a solution via which you can hide your location or be in a location you want while browsing the web with a secure and stable connection without installing that heavy VPN on your system. That is where floppy data comes into picture. Floppy data is basically a powerful proxy service that keeps your study sessions and lab environments stable, fast, and private. And this is better than VPN, and it also costs less. Now, how does this help? You can create sticky residential routes. You can create your proxy pools from all the three options, which is residential, mobile, and data center. You can rotate residential mobile pools for large-scale research, fewer captchas, and throttling on MS Docs and SAP Notes. You can do city-level targeting across 195 locations. You can see geo-specific pricing. You can also access preview features of Azure which are not available in a certain region but are available in a different region. You can use data center proxies for faster downloads and use of Azure CLI SDKs, SAP trial images, and large reference files. This is a team-ready setup which perfectly works with Go login to isolate profiles like client, lab, personal and avoid cross-contamination, and it just costs you $0.6. Residential and mobile proxies $1 per GB, which is probably lowest in the market. If you want an affordable, fast backbone for AZ-120 prep and SAP-on-Azure labs, add floppy data to your tech stack. Click on the link in the description and the pinned comment to get started with this amazing tool. Alright, before we dive into the questions, here are some tips on how the exam day and the day before looks like from my personal experience. Night before the exam, do not try to cram, reframe. Resist the temptation to scroll through all your notes at 11 p.m. in the night. Instead, review the key architecture patterns, things like high availability options, migration types, and monitoring tools. Then close the laptop and trust what you have learned. Sleep is your superpower. A fresh mind outperforms a stressed one, so aim for 7+ hours of solid sleep. You'll think more clearly and catch tricky keywords in questions that others miss. Make sure you prep your setup. If it's an online proctored exam, test your webcam, your mic, systems beforehand and keep your desk clean. You should only have your laptop and mouse, and everything else should be out of the desk. And also be prepared to show your room to the proctor via your webcam. If you are heading to the test center, keep your photo ID, confirmation email and water bottle ready. No last minute panic and keep a calm brain. A quick visualization trick. Spend 5 minutes imagining yourself calmly reading the questions and confidently clicking submit. This rewires your mind for focus like an athlete before a match. Eat something light but sustaining like oats, fruit or eggs. Skip the heavy breakfast because heavy breakfast will make you sleepy and you might not be able to give the exam and leave it halfway through. Avoid last minute YouTube or Azure Docs. You're not adding any knowledge, you're just building anxiety. Instead, take few deep breaths, stretch and walk a bit before starting. Now, very important is time management. You will have 40 to 50 questions in 150 minutes. That's around 2 to 3 minutes per question. Mark long scenarios for review and move on. Do not get trapped in one question. Read every word carefully. Microsoft questions love detail. Watch out for phrases like most cost effective. They are testing your cost governance. High availability across regions. They want HA and DR strategy. Minimize administrative efforts. Automation tools probably. These clues tell you exactly what Azure services they are hinting at. And double check before you submit. If you have the time at the end, revisit any flagged questions with a fresh mind. Often your first instinct is right. Trust your preparation. Okay, now you have the prep list for the exam day. Let's get into the questions. But before that, do remember to subscribe the channel, hit the bell icon so that you can find the video when you need it. If you like the content, give it a thumbs up so that it can reach more people like you and they can benefit from it. Question 1. You're migrating SAP to Azure. The ASCS application server are in one Azure zone and the SAP database server is in a different Azure zone. ASCS or ERS is configured for high availability. During performance testing, you discover increased response time and the initial analysis reveals an increased wait time for NQ. What are the 3 possible causes for increased wait time? A. Missing NQ profile. B. Disk I/O during NQ backup operations. Misconfigured load balancer rules and health check probes for NQ and ASCS. Active NQ replication. Or E. Network latency between the database server and the SAP application server. The correct answer is C. Misconfigured load balancer rules and health check probes for NQ and ASCS. D. Active NQ replication. And E. Network latency between database server and SAP application server. Now these 3 possible causes listed in source for increased NQ wait time are misconfigured load balancer and health check probes, active replication, and network latency between SAP application server. Since ASCS servers and database servers are in different Azure zones, network latency is a critical factor. Next question. You have an on-premises SAP environment which uses AIX servers and IBM DB2 as the database platform. You plan to migrate SAP to Azure, where the SAP workloads will use Windows Server and Microsoft SQL Server as database platform. What tool should you use to export data from DB2 and import the data to SQL Server? Following options: R3 Load, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, SQL Server Management Studio SSMS, or SQL Server Migration Assistant SSMA. The correct answer is SSMA, SQL Server Migration Assistant. Now SSMA is designed for migrating various database systems including IBM DB2 to SQL Server. SSMA automates the migration process by converting the database schema, data, and various objects, making it suitable for heterogeneous database migrations. SSMA is the specialized tool for specific cross-platform migration scenario. Question 3. You are planning a small-scale deployment for SAP HANA on Azure large database instance landscape. You identify costs of virtual machine SKUs required to host HANA large instance deployment. What additional cost could be incurred as a prerequisite for this deployment? A. An Azure Rapid Response Support Contract. B. An Express Route Circuit between HANA Large Instance Stamp and Azure. Or C. A Linux Support Contract. Or D. A site-to-site VPN between HANA Large Instance Stamp and Azure. The correct answer is Express Route Circuit that should be set up between HANA Large Instance Stamp and Azure. Question 4. Your on-premises network has 100 Mbps connection and contains an SAP production landscape with 14 TB of data files. You plan to migrate the on-premises SAP landscape to Azure. The solution must migrate the files within 7 days, minimize the administrative effort, and minimize service outages. What should you use for the migration? Now focus on the fact that the question asks you to focus on the solution must migrate the files within 7 days. So there's a time period, and it also asks you to minimize the administrative effort and also asks you to minimize the service outage. So based on these 3 parameters, you have to select the tool. The correct answer would be Azure Data Box, since Azure Data Box is a physical appliance which is designed for securely and efficiently transferring large amounts of data up to 14 TB to Azure. It bypasses limitations imposed by slow network speeds, and the solution minimizes administrative efforts and service outages by enabling data transfer to be performed offline. You can transfer your data offline and later do a sync to sync up all the delta data. Question 5. You plan to deploy SAP production landscape on Azure. You need to recommend a solution to minimize latency between application servers and SAP HANA database server. What should you include in the recommendations? Route all traffic between virtual machines through load balanced network virtual appliances. Deploy the virtual machine to a PPG, proximity placement group. route all the traffic between virtual machines through an Azure standard load balancer, or deploy the virtual machines in the same subnet? The correct answer is deploy the virtual machines to a proximity placement group. We already know PPG is used to ensure that Azure virtual machines are placed physically close to each other within the same data center. Proximity minimizes network latency and improves performance between tightly coupled components like SAP application servers and SAP HANA database servers. Question 6. You plan to deploy a highly available SAP HANA system to Azure virtual machines and need to implement shared storage volumes using Azure NetApp files, ANF. What should you create first? A private endpoint, a delegated subnet, a private link, or a service endpoint? Correct answer is a delegated subnet. Now, in order to prepare deploying Azure NetApp files, you must first create a delegated subnet. This delegated subnet allows ANF to create and manage the necessary resources within that subnet, making it a prerequisite for ANF. Question 7. You plan to migrate an on-premises SAP development system to Azure. Before the migration, you need to check the usage of the source system hardware such as CPU, memory, and network usage. Which transaction should you run from SAP GUI? The correct answer is OS07N. OS07N signifies Remote Operating System Activity. This is used to check the usage of source system hardware. It runs the monitoring on operating system programs. Question 8. You need to get a comprehensive list of all applications that are a part of SAP environment, which contains SAP HANA and SAP Adaptive Server Enterprise, ASE, systems running a SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 12, SLES 12, and multiple SAP applications. What should you use? The SAP license information, the SAP Solution Manager, the Data Volume Management Report, or the network inventory and locations? The correct answer is SAP Solution Manager, also called Solman. Solman is the management tool that serves as central repository for information and provides functionality for system information, configuration, and monitoring for the entire SAP landscape. It can provide comprehensive list of all the applications which are there in your SAP system right now. The next question number 9. You need to upgrade and migrate SAP ERP Central Components to SAP Business Suite on HANA Enhancement Pack 8 on Azure. The migration must be completed within 48 hours period during a weekend, minimizing downtime. Which of the migration methods is recommended? Migrate SAP ECC to SAP Business Suite in HANA and then migrate to SAP Azure. Use near zero downtime to migrate to SAP HANA and Azure during the same maintenance window. Use database migration options to migrate to SAP HANA and Azure during the same maintenance window, or migrate SAP to Azure and then migrate SAP ECC to SAP Business Suite on HANA. The correct answer is use database migration options DMO to migrate to SAP HANA and Azure during the same maintenance window. This is the recommended migration method for combining the database migration to HANA and system upgrade while minimizing downtime. Use the DMO to migrate to SAP HANA and Azure during the same maintenance window. Question number 10. You have an on-premises SAP landscape with an IBM DB2 database. You need to recommend a solution to migrate the landscape to Azure and the database to SAP HANA. The solution must be supported by SAP and minimize downtime. What should you recommend? Use Azure Data Migration Service, Databox Gateway, SAP Database Migration option with System Move, or Azure Import Export Service. The correct answer is again SAP Database Migration option with System Move. This is the recommended approach. This option utilizes standard SAP tools and procedures and is supported by SAP, and System Move feature is designed to perform a system copy, including database migration to new environment, which minimizes the downtime. Okay, we are 10 questions down. How many of you are planning to get certified on AZ-120? Do share your experiences in the comment section. I read them and respond to them as soon as possible. If you are a first-time viewer, consider subscribing to the channel, since we are going to bring in other certification videos as well. This is just the beginning. Consider liking the video if it adds any value to your knowledge. Moving on, you are deploying SAP on Azure. The database server will use SAP HANA and application server will run Windows servers. You need to test the network latency and throughput between the front-end SAP server and the database server. Which three tools can you use to achieve this goal? The correct answer is use SOCPerf, IO meter, and NI ping. NI ping is an SAP tool for testing connectivity and latency between SAP systems. IO meter is a tool commonly used for benchmarking storage systems and assessing throughput IO performance. And SOC-perf, noted as a tool that could be used for SAP performance monitoring and assessing the throughput. You have an SAP-on-Azure deployment and need to create monthly report that identifies opportunities for performance and security optimization across production, development, and quality assurance landscape. The solution must minimize effort. What tool should you use? Azure Monitor, Azure Advisor, SAP GUI, SAP Hardware, and Cloud Management Tools. Correct answer is Azure Advisor. It is a cloud service that provides personalized and best practices recommendations based on Azure resource configuration. It offers insights into potential and performance security improvements, making it the most suitable tool for generating optimization reports while minimizing effort. You have an SAP HANA on Azure large instance landscape that uses Type 2 class SKU. During readiness check, you notice slow performance. You need to collect the diagnostic data for an Azure support case. What should you do? Run dir instance exe python support full system info dump.py, run opt sgi health, check Microsoft tdi.sh, install Azure Monitor for SAP solutions, or create a tar bundle for var.log. You can run opt sgi health, check Microsoft tdi.sh. For troubleshooting performance issues and collecting diagnostic data in SAP HANA or Azure large instances Type 2 SKU environment for an Azure supports case, running this script is a suitable option. It is used to collect diagnostic data and perform health checks on these instances. You have an on-premises SAP NetWeaver deployment using Windows Server 2016 and Microsoft SQL Server 2016. You need to migrate the deployment to an Azure virtual machine that runs Windows 2016 and has Microsoft SQL Server 2019 installed. Which migration approach should you use? Classical SAP database migration option, Azure Migrate, heterogeneous SAP classical migration, lift and shift. Correct answer is lift and shift. This approach is suitable because it involves replicating the existing on-prem VM to Azure. After lift and shift, the SQL Server version can be updated to 2019 on Azure VM. This approach is generally quicker and easier when the goal is to keep configuration largely the same while performing a version upgrade. Now the next set of questions you will see are just yes or no, which means you need to find the right statement and the wrong statement. So let's see. Evaluate the following statements regarding write accelerator and Azure disks for SAP HANA certification on M-Series Azure VMs. The first statement is SAP HANA certification for M-Series Azure VM require that write accelerator be enabled on HANA log volumes. SAP HANA certification for M-Series Azure VM requires that write accelerator be enabled on HANA data volume. To enable write accelerator, you must use Azure Premium Managed Disks. So the first statement, which is SAP HANA certification for M-Series Azure VM requires write accelerator to be enabled, is a true statement. SAP HANA certification for M-Series VM requires write accelerator to be enabled on HANA data volume is not a true statement. And to enable write accelerator, you must use Azure Premium Disks and Azure Premium Managed Disks is a true statement. You have an SAP production landscape on Azure that uses SAP HANA database. You need to deploy a disaster recovery solution that supports failover between Azure regions and minimizes data loss. What should you deploy? Options are always on availability group, HANA system replication that uses synchronous replication, HANA system replication that uses asynchronous replication, or Azure site recovery. HANA system replication that uses asynchronous replication. For failover between Azure regions while minimizing data loss, which is RPO, recovery point object, HANA system replication, which uses asynchronous replication, is the recommended solution. Synchronous replication is typically used within the single region or availability zone due to strict latency requirements. Regarding SAP HANA backups and storage snapshots, Determine if the following statements are true. SAP supports both SAP HANA backup and storage snapshot options. Before you can back up an SAP HANA database by using snapshot options, you must stop the Azure virtual machine. To ensure SAP HANA data consistency when taking storage snapshots, you must freeze the file system. The correct answer is SAP supports both SAP HANA backup and storage snapshot options. That's a true. Before you can back up an SAP HANA database by using snapshot options, you must stop the Azure virtual machine. That's not true. To ensure SAP HANA data consistency when taking storage snapshots, you must freeze the file system. That's a true statement. You are reviewing an SAP Early Watch Alert report for SAP ERP Central Component, SAP ECC production system. You need to recommend sizes for the virtual machines that will host the system. Which two sections of the report you should review? Hardware capacity, patch level under SAP software configuration, hardware configuration under landscape, database and ABAP load optimization, data volume management. The correct answer is hardware capacity and hardware configuration under landscape. To recommend appropriate size for Azure virtual machines, you must review sections containing performance data and current usage metrics. These sections are hardware capacity and hardware configuration under landscape. You deploy a network virtual appliance to act as a firewall between Azure subnets and on-premises network. You need to ensure that all traffic is routed through the NVA. Does deploying an Azure standard load balancer meet this goal? You have to answer in yes or no. The answer is no. Deploying an Azure standard load balancer does not ensure that all traffic is routed through NVA. Standard load balancer is just used for distributing incoming network traffic, not enforcing network routing path. To ensure all traffic is routed through NVA, you use UDRs or user defined route. You plan to deploy an SAP landscape on Azure. The landscape will use SAP HANA database that run on Azure virtual machines. The landscape will have 4 Azure virtual machines which will have SAP Web Dispatcher role. You need to minimize the network latency between Web Dispatcher and virtual machines and the HANA virtual machine. What should you do? Configure Express Route Premium, enable accelerated networking on the virtual machines, enable large send offload to virtual machines, configure Azure Virtual Network Manager. Correct answer is enable accelerated network on virtual machines. Now, accelerated network is a feature that significantly reduces network latency between virtual machines by offloading network processing from the host CPU to dedicated hardware. Enabling this feature enhances network performance for tightly coupled components like Web Dispatcher. You plan to deploy Azure for SAP workloads. You segregate the domain controllers from SAP systems by using different virtual networks. You need to recommend a solution to connect the virtual network that minimizes cost. What should you do? User-defined routing, virtual network peering, express route, or site-to-site VPN. The correct answer is virtual network peering. This allows seamless connection between virtual networks without requiring a gateway or additional routing. Provides low latency, high bandwidth connections within the same region and is a cost-effective solution for connecting the networks. Next question, you have an Azure virtual machine that runs SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, hosting highly available deployment for SAP HANA. You need to validate whether accelerated networking is operational for the virtual machine. What tool should you use? Options are FIO, NetSH, IOmeter, or ETH tool. The correct answer is ETH tool. ETH tool is a Linux utility for querying and changing settings for network interface controllers. It can be used to check status and features of network interfaces, including confirming whether accelerated networking is enabled and operational on Linux virtual machines. You are planning a highly available SAP HANA deployment on Azure virtual machines. You need to recommend a solution for monitoring TCP latency between SAP application and database tiers on the TCP socket layer. What tool should you use? Azure Network Watcher Reachability Report, the NIPing command, the Azure extension for SAP, or the ping command. The correct answer is the NIPing command. NIPing command is an SAP tool specifically designed for measuring network latency and connectivity performance between SAP components, including between application and database 8 years. You have implemented Azure availability zones with the redundant components, application servers clustered, ASCS ERS and HA database to meet 99.99% SLA. What command line tool should you use to initiate failover of ASCS/ERS cluster? SAP Control, Azure Traffic Manager, SAP Web Dispatcher, or SAP Solution Manager? The correct answer is SAP Control. SAP Control is an SAP command line tool used for monitoring and managing SAP instances. It can be utilized to start, stop, check status, or initiate failover of core SAP components such as those with ASCS or ERS clusters. You plan to migrate a third-party enterprise resource planning system using Microsoft SQL Server 2016 to SAP Business Suite on SAP HANA on Azure virtual machines. What tools should you use to identify the appropriate sizing for Business Suite on HANA? SAP Quick Sizer for HANA Cloud, HANA Cockpit, SAP Cloud Platform Cockpit, or SAP Quick Sizer for HANA? The correct answer is SAP Quick Sizer for HANA. This dedicated tool provided by SAP helps you to estimate the necessary hardware resources such as memory, CPU, and storage, and is required for running SAP HANA based systems such as SAP Business Suite or HANA based on the business requirements. Okay folks, thanks for watching this video. Remember to check out floppy data from the link in the comments and the pin section and description. I'll see you in the next video with rest of the 25 questions. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment on this video.